The Mortal Kombat franchise has been around for 25 years now, and today it's regarded as one of the bloodiest, goriest, and most over-the-top games to ever exist. With each new installment, we're reminded of how disgustingly creative it can get with its fatalities, and we actually mean that in a positive light. We're also challenged with difficult bosses that test our knowledge of how each character plays. And of course, you can't forget the easy and responsive controls that are difficult to master but allow anyone to pick up and play. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and click on the links in the description to vote on upcoming content. No franchise has gone through 25 years and maintained a completely spotless record. Mortal Kombat has certainly had its fair share of mishaps, often stemming from a lack of creativity or straying too far from what the series is known for. Some have delivered broken and unbalanced gameplay, while others focused more on trying to reinvent the wheel or include more trivial features. Some examples that come to mind are Armageddon and Mortal Kombat 4. However, Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero is a bit of a different story. Released in 1997 for the N64 and PlayStation 1, this was to be a brand new single-player game centered on the events that transpired before the first Mortal Kombat tournament. In other words, it was a prequel starring Sub-Zero, and it unfortunately became one of the most notorious games in the franchise. Early Mortal Kombat games had some of the easiest controls in the fighting game genre. While many require complex combos and quick button presses, Mortal Kombat requires about 3 or 4 buttons to execute a special move. The simple controls allow new players to quickly learn their characters and experiment with their movesets. This continuously encourages you to try new characters without making things too overwhelming.
Sub-Zero wins flawless victory.
Mythologies, on the other hand, is incredibly frustrating. For starters, if an enemy appears behind you, you have to manually press a button just for you to turn around. Not trying to get picky here, but why couldn't a simple flick of the joystick perform this action? This is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up. Why can't we just turn around when we input it like in every other game in the genre? The game also gives you a pretty broken run button, but you'll be forced to use it with a lot of caution, as the speed can quickly lead you into a death trap. Congratulations, you just lost a life because you ran too fast. Good stuff, buddy. Seriously, this really drags down the game's pacing. Oh, and we hope you don't plan on using special moves, because chances are you're not going to be able to do them. With the controls being so unresponsive, you'll probably end up making Sub-Zero look like he just chugged a bunch of pixie sticks and is all hyper. Some of the fondest, and if we're being honest, most frustrating memories that we have with the Mortal Kombat series lies in the boss fights. Yes, we've yelled some swear words and thrown a controller or two, but Shao Kahn, Goro, and the rest pushed us to our limits. They tested our knowledge of how to use our favorite characters. Once we waded through all those cheap shots, defeating them felt like a real accomplishment. So, how is it that Mythologies managed to make some of the worst boss fights in gaming? Okay, well, for starters, some of the AI gets completely bugged out, rendering bosses immobile or forcing them to repeat the same action over and over and over again. What's supposed to be an epic boss battle between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, or Quan Chi, or Chinook quickly becomes easy to cheese. Just wait for the boss to have a massive brain fart and then repeatedly press punch or kick. Simple and kinda degrading. On top of that, there are a couple of bosses that require unintuitive commands in order to beat. The second boss, for example, requires you to get to one end of the stage and press down to hold on to the edge of the platform. There's not even a button prompt or a command to tell the players what to do, though. So prior to knowing this, a lot of players were wasting life after life trying to best this guy, but left clueless on what to do to truly actually succeed. And this is after you deplete his health, mind you. Of course, this wouldn't be a Mortal Kombat game without fatalities. You just can't make a game in the franchise without them. With each new release, developers have to get twice as gruesome, twice as brutal, and increase the bloodbath tenfold, which has gotten pretty crazy lately. I mean, come on, how many ways can you tear out someone's spine? What are the different ways you can burn someone with fire? These are sadistic questions, yes, but they're important for the developer to ask in order to deliver what Mortal Kombat is known for, the mortal part of the combat. Now, Mythologies didn't forget to incorporate fatalities, but the game went about it in some of the worst ways possible. In some boss fights, you'll have the opportunity to perform a fatality on said boss. This supposedly affects the storyline in some way, but it doesn't feel like it. Instead, the characters seem like they're kind of copy-pasted into the scenes, just so Mythologies can write itself out of a corner. Fatalities can also take the form of traps that can kill you without warning. And this goes back to the poor controls and the broken run button. Charging ahead could cost you a life, all because there's a pit of spikes or a giant hammer at the beginning of the next screen that you didn't know was there before. Basically, the game demands that you know where these traps are ahead of time. The only way to know is if you accidentally run into these death traps the first time. It is literally forcing trial and error upon the player. Come on guys, that's just unfair. We'd be more than happy to play a game of Mortal Kombat, but Mythologies simply wasn't the experience anyone was looking for. A single-player adventure game sounds promising, but we'd recommend going for Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks over this trash any day of the week. Of course, back when you were playing this on the N64, that definitely wasn't an option. But trust us, if you do try to play this, you'll spend more time fighting the controls than enjoying yourself. The bosses are either too confusing or too broken, and as for the fatalities, they come off as lazy and punishing rather than epic and satisfying. You can't even laugh at the number of cheap shots this game pulls on you.
Do not question me, Serena.
The Mortal Kombat series as a whole has luckily withstood the test of time, and it's seen some improvements in how it manages to tighten its controls, improve its gameplay, and deliver decent single-player campaigns. There might be a time when we can get another linear Mortal Kombat game, but the recent release of Mortal Kombat 2011 and Mortal Kombat X have helped cement the identity of the franchise. It's a multiplayer fighting game, known for its over-the-top gore, colorful cast of characters, and accessible gameplay. We simply shouldn't be asking for anything more than that. Thanks for watching MojoPlays. Be sure to subscribe and click on the link in the description below to check out our suggestion page and vote on what content you'd like to see us cover next.